just believe in the power of healing and restoration. And I know that if we can just come together and speak about the hard things, we can finally begin to heal. So, this is where we heal.
Welcome to another episode of This Is Where We Heal. Today I have an extraordinary guest with me. Her name is Lauren Sierra, and she is from Jungle Law Firm. You have probably seen her face before, but if not, Lauren is the leading attorney at her firm and a former NFL cheerleader and a former professor. And so today we're actually going to be talking about the steps that you can take when in a situation from sexual assault, whether it's work environment or personal or just a random act of violence towards you, and also domestic violence and the things and steps that you can take moving forward with those. We get this question all the time. I get these questions all the time, and it's just one of those things that I don't have an answer for. So, Lauren, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I would also love to know, before we even get into all of that, how did you go from an NFL cheerleader to a professor to being the lead attorney at a law firm that advocates for people in violent situations like that?
I'm going to give you the semi-serious answer and then the 100% serious answer. I have really bad ADD, which a lot of people do, I think. And I like to try different things. And sometimes I move on to the next when I'm ready. But I became an NFL cheerleader. This is a funny story that I won't concentrate too much on because I know we're talking about other stuff. Yeah. But I really liked the guy I was dating and I wanted to impress him.
I love it. Haven't we all been there?
So I thought that might work because it seemed like a thing that men would be impressed with. And it was.
Yeah.
So, that's how it started, honestly. But sometimes things when you start them out in a weird way and you're not really sure what you're doing, it turned out to be one of the most fun years of my life.
Yeah.
So I was really happy with it.
I love that.
And again, in that same vein, my husband and I own this law firm together.
Okay.
So when, again, I was trying to impress the love of my life who became my husband, I was like, gosh, maybe if I become a lawyer, because he's a lawyer, that will impress him some more.
Yeah.
So chasing love is a really good thing. And, it's funny because I think that's the goal, but then we're all also trying to stay away from the unhealthy stuff. I know you talk about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And but finding the counterbalance is important.
Yeah, it sure is. No, I love that. And I love your honesty and transparency because I think we can all admit that there have been times in our life where, I did this for someone else, or I did this because I thought it would look good.
But it turns out to be the greatest thing you could do for yourself.
Yeah.
So that's what's awesome.
Yeah. Every experience you have teaches you more, and then you grow and you learn and you become a more evolved version of yourself. But so how long have you guys had the firm? Because you have it, you do it together now, correct?
We do. So we started in 2017, which is when I became an attorney.
Okay.
He was an attorney before that. And we both sort of do different trajectories in the firm. Mm-hmm. So he does criminal defense and personal injury. And I focus on a really specific area that I think is a little more unique. And it's the employment law. But specifically, I do a lot of work with people who've been harassed sexually in the workplace.
Wow. How often are you getting cases like that come to you?
I mean, that's pretty much the core of what I do right now. I do some other types of discrimination, but most people know me because I specifically work with victims of sexual assault and harassment in the workplace.
Wow. That's got to be hard.
It is. There's challenges representing people, hearing it. And, you may think after a while you hear all of these stories and you build a little bit of a wall and get jaded, but that's not true. I feel like each time I hear someone, the pain is still there, even to feel it. I have a lot of empathy for the situation because like you, I have my own story, and actually the assault and harassment that happened to me was specifically at a job.
Oh, no.
Which I think is what, very strangely, and I wasn't even consciously thinking about it. It may have been somewhat subconscious, but I fell into this particular field because so much of what you end up doing is from your own experiences,
Mm-hmm. So in your situation, did you ever take any steps towards getting them persecuted?
So this is what's so difficult is back when I was living in Los Angeles, where this was running rampant and there really wasn't the checks and balances system that there is now. Men were in positions of power and employment if any woman was in the entertainment industry. And like so many women, I think, feel it's a tough choice. you feel like you have to go along to get along. And more than anything, I wanted to succeed at this. I wanted to be great. Like, and you're willing to give up a lot when you have a dream for something. It can be very unhealthy. So I was a victim more than once. And the two times that really I think have shaped me, the first time I just had no idea that I even had recourse, and maybe there wasn't a lot of recourse.
Right.
The second time was bad enough that I was like, I know this is criminal and I need to step forward. And I did, but I didn't have, honestly, a me now to assist me. I didn't have a lawyer. And trying to navigate that process on my own, you kind of get eaten alive because you're emotionally very vulnerable. So I think it's important to have some legal assistance with this. Of course, you're probably speaking to a counselor, right? And you're speaking to your friends and your family, but having the lawyer who would have told me, yes, despite what detectives or police or anyone is telling you, there is something here that you can take action on, that would have helped me a lot.
Oh my God, yeah. And I've heard that a lot too. A lot of women have said that they've went to, the police department and they were kind of just told like, well, sorry, like you don't have proof, so there's not much we can do for you, which always breaks my heart a little bit because it takes so much courage to even go there in the first place.
So much. And I think people should still do it.
Yeah.
The reason isn't necessarily like anything against the police or whatnot.
Yeah.
We're actually always trying to get resources to the police because quite frankly, like there just isn't the resources to bring a lot of these cases forward, whether it's at the detective level, at prosecuting level.
Right.
And so a lot of them, there's just no room. And I think people think, well, that's why it's hopeless. But for someone like me, if this does happen to you and you file a police report and then you come to me as your civil attorney, it's actually a really useful tool.
Oh, that's good to know.
So I think you should do it just because there's so many reasons to file a police report, right?
Yeah.
Like you're filing a police report because you're protecting other people that this person may do it to in the future.
That's so true.
You're bringing notice. But even from like a legal perspective, it could be an important element of your case.
Gosh, that's so good. And that's honestly, that makes so much sense now.
Yeah.
It really does. I know for myself, like when I was sexually assaulted, I was 24. I never turned that person in. I never did. And it haunts me to this day because I was so embarrassed about what happened to me. I felt so ashamed of it and so gross and like just disgusted with the whole situation that I didn't even want to think about it. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't tell anyone for years. And it was just something that I lived with for a really long time. And it just came out in my life in a million other ways, right? But like now that I'm older and I feel more secure and I understand that like it's not my fault that happened, I wish so badly that I had, because I think about that all the time of like, I wonder how many other women this happened to because I didn't say anything,
It's so common, I think, to feel as though you somehow asked for this,
Yeah.
right? Or you brought it on, or you didn't take the right steps. But that's not the case at all. And this is something that lately I've been doing a lot with advertising because I think a lot of women don't realize that they would have a case in this situation. Is a lot of times when you're working and a supervisor, we'll say it's a woman and a man, but of course it could be reversed. Usually it presents as a woman and a man where the male supervisor is asking for you to involve yourself sexually with him. And the lines get blurred and you need that job so badly. And a lot of women say, something, I got 5 kids at home. Like, I'll just do it. I won't think about it. I'll close my eyes and somehow I'll get through this. And then they think, I can't go to a lawyer because I was a willing participant. But you're not a willing participant because this person of power used money to hold it over you, almost like putting a carrot in front of you.
That's food for thought too. Like when you hear about those cases and the perpetrator is saying this was completely consensual, she's lying, and it's like I would have never even thought about it from that perspective though. Like, I mean, empathetically for her, but like that makes so much sense. And even in my own situations, there have been times where it was like it really wasn't consensual, right? But I was afraid to use my voice, And actually, I literally just had someone reach out to me, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago. Same thing. She said, I'm getting assaulted at work. I don't know where to go because I'm a single mom. I have to have this job. I cannot lose my job. And I'm afraid that if I say anything or speak out, that I'll lose my job and I won't be able to get hired anywhere else. And I was like, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. She does need to speak to an attorney, I think. And I think people are afraid the big buzzword is retaliation.
Yes.
Yeah. Like they're afraid, what are the consequences of losing my job, blacklisted in my community, or God knows what else, right? Maybe I'll be sued myself.
Yeah.
But like the things are realistically, those bad things are probably not going to happen. The things, if they were going to happen that are bad, are probably going to happen regardless. So why not stand up for yourself to at least, I think it almost clears your conscience in a way too. In some ways, I have a lot of clients who say it's almost like going to confession because it's very therapeutic to stand up for yourself and overcome these fears.
Yeah, that's so good. I know that like part of what her fear was too is like, what do I do in the meantime if I'm not working while I'm filing this suit and I'm trying to push forward with this? Like, how do I survive? And I mean, it's a great question. I don't know how that works, but I do feel for her and all the women that are in that situation. What is the first step that a woman should take? Like, we'll do two scenarios.
Yeah.
First scenario is they're working somewhere and they're approached and this starts happening. And let's say, like you said, they decided to just do it consensually, quote unquote, for a moment because they're like, well, if I don't do this, I'm going to lose my job. Right? Even though they didn't want to. What is the first step that they need to take?
So I think a lot of people, I think you should contact an attorney as soon as possible.
Okay.
A lot of people are afraid that they're going to have to give up their job right away. And I tell clients all the time, like, you should feel like, if you're uncomfortable, you should leave. But if you need the job, you can stay,
Okay.
right? A lot of times I think if you report this and you hire a lawyer, companies are actually nervous to get rid of you because they think like, oh my gosh, it'll look like more retaliation if she files a claim, initiates this, and then all of a sudden we're letting her go. So
True.
it offers a strange sort of protection for your job in a way.
That's really good to know.
Yeah. So that's why I encourage people to step forward. And ultimately, do you really want to be working for a place where they allow this to happen?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There's plenty of places where they don't.
Right.
But I think the first step is everyone's afraid to report. And some people I notice are reporting, but they're not putting it down in writing. And then later on, we have this issue where it's like, oh my gosh, did what was said in the report? So I tell people like document.
Okay.
Like crazy.
Yeah.
Important.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, what is the difference in the cases that you win versus the ones that they don't?
I mean, there's no like exact formula. We try to win as many cases as possible.
Yeah.
And honesty is really important too. I know sometimes it can be hard to share everything up front because of everything that happened. A lot of my clients are getting counseling at the same time, and that helps tremendously.
Yeah.
Once they're no longer working with the company, we handle most of the communication. So
that's
sometimes
good.
that's a little bit easier.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, so is that going to differ then from, let's say, in my situation, I'm a young 24-year-old girl, I'm on a date, I'm thinking everything's fine, and then I get put into this situation that I can't get out of, right? Does that look different for a case like this versus just a work harassment, or not just work harassment, but a work harassment situation?
They're related to each other, but they operate separately too. So if you're going to get assaulted by somebody and it's just like someone, it depends how you know them, and there's so many things that are involved. Insurance could be involved depending on all kinds of things. That the difference I would say with the company is somebody could do the exact same thing, like your boss could take you out in a car ride and do something terrible. We've seen it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But the company is also liable for that.
Oh.
And so that's what's really interesting is a lot of people think, well, I'm going after this person who harassed me and I'm really scared because this person is terrifying and I don't know what they're going to do to me. But essentially, you're not really going after that person. And actually Missouri law, you can't really go after that person. You're going after the company the majority of the time. So that's a little less scary, right? Because the company is not the entity that was doing anything to you. The company is bigger and broader. And I think some people, when I say we're going after the company, we're not necessarily going after the individual, that gives them a little bit of relief because they're like, I don't want to be facing this individual.
Yeah.
But if it's like the company, that's different, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly. And so once you're in court in a situation like that, does the perpetrator have to appear? Like, are they there?
Sometimes yes, but sometimes not. Like it really depends. We try our best, whether it's, and I do represent some individuals also who have assault happen to them in a personal context that's not through employment. But we try everything we can to not have them have to be. Yeah, because that can be a lot of like re-victimization and bringing memories back. So thanks to technology, actually, thanks to things like Zoom and computers, it's a lot easier to keep people separated.
That's great.
When I first started doing this law, we would be in a big room like this, everybody, including perpetrators and both sides, all talking, right? And fighting. And then COVID hit. And then Zoom all of a sudden became this technology. And now, like, a lot of my court hearings, the majority of them, you can shut your camera off. And there's all sorts of great things you can do to limit the re-traumatization.
Honestly, that's incredible. And I hadn't really thought about that at all. But I think that would help a lot of people, just knowing, like, hey, you don't have to face them again necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, and knowing too, like, and we're not directing this at them. We're going for the company. I think that would help me. That would have helped me a lot.
Yeah.
You know, even though mine wasn't, a work situation, but like still. So in my situation, how does that look? Like, is there a difference then when I'm like, hey, this is what happened to me. I was on a date, blah, 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 blah. How does that process end up flowing differently than the other?
So you still would potentially file a lawsuit against the person, but it depends. So I'd have to understand, like, more with each individual case, right? You definitely want to start. I think the first thing you do is start with the criminal side of things. So I work in the civil side. So I'm a lawyer, and my job would be to get you compensation for what happened.
Okay.
But the state takes care of the criminal side of things because this person committed a crime, right? And they need to be punished. Maybe they need to go to jail. Both of these things can run concurrently, and they should. And I think it's important to start. I mean, the soonest you can go to the police, the best. It's so hard for people. But another thing, and you may have told your viewers this in the past, like, there isn't really much of a limit when it comes to time on this. Like, if you wait a year, you can still go to the police.
Yeah. That's a good thought to have as well.
But really, really important for what I do, you cannot wait a year. So that's like a big issue, is when you are going after individuals or companies who are allowing this to happen, you have a very short statute of limitations. It can be as short as 6 months.
Oh, wow.
So you got to pay attention to that.
Oof, gosh. I mean, but that's also, like, for me, that would be an incentive to be like, okay, I just need to do this. Like, I have to do it. I have to do it for myself. I have to do it for anyone else that would be working under the same person. And like, yeah, no, I agree. I think that's great.
The biggest thing I tell people too is, like, I think people are scared that this is going to haunt me for life.
Yes.
Like, it's this burden that I'm carrying. And I don't know about you, but I bet when I say this, you're going to say it happens to you too. Like, sometimes I'll watch movies and I won't have a warning where I'll see somebody getting assaulted. In one particular movie, I think it's with Blake Lively, actually. It's not a very well-known movie, but she ends up getting roofied. And the experience was so close to mine that, like, oh my God, it's like then you can't stop thinking about it. And it's like, this is going to chase me forever. Right.
Yeah.
But there's something about hiring an attorney and taking action on it. I tell this to clients, and clients tell me this, where they're like, oh my God, like, I feel as though I was finally able to shut a door. And what's nice is you're shutting the door for you so you can move on, but you get great satisfaction in knowing that you're opening the door for your perpetrator, who now is going to have to feel all of that pain that you had to deal with.
Oh, that's so good. And I couldn't agree more. It was, for me, it was the scene. Did you ever see, it was a Big Little Lies? It was like Nicole Kidman and Shailene Woodley and Reese Witherspoon. It was like a television show, HBO.
It sounds familiar, yeah.
So there was a scene in that television show. I had no idea what the show was even about. I was just watching it.
No warning, yeah.
Right. And there's a scene where Shailene Woodley's character gets assaulted by one of the other women's husbands. And he takes her out on a date, and she thinks it's like great. She has no idea he's married. And it was so similar to what happened to me. That was the first time, because I had completely shut it off. I had tucked it away. I hadn't thought about it in a long time. I hadn't talked to anyone about it ever. It hit me so hard. I got in therapy like 2 weeks later because it hit me so hard I couldn't shake that, because it was like reliving it, right? And so I couldn't agree more with that. And again, that was another thing that made me go, I wish I would have said something, because I didn't even know how bad it was until seeing that scene and going, that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, it's like almost like, and then it becomes this itch that you're just like scratching. It's horrible.
Yeah. And it's weird how, and I don't know if you did this, but in my situation, I kind of like almost like brushed it off like it wasn't a big deal for a long time or something. Like, it was horrific in the moment. It was horrific for like a few weeks following. But then there was like a certain point where I just kind of numbed out what happened to me. And it was almost just like, whatever. Which is so weird, that we do that to ourselves.
It's some sort of trauma coping mechanism, I think.
Yeah. But no, I totally agree with that. And I wonder, is there because the domestic violence situation is so much different, right? This is like a person in a relationship with someone that maybe has repeatedly at a certain point, injured them, or maybe it's only happened once and they decide, okay, I'm going to leave, which hopefully that's the case for everyone, but a lot of the times it's not.
Hard, yeah.
Like, what is the recourse in something like that? Like, let's say a woman finds herself in that situation, okay? Maybe she hasn't even left yet, but she's now suddenly she is being abused and she knows she needs to leave. She knows she needs to get out. Are there certain things that she could and should be doing to prep for going to an attorney? Like, should she be documenting everything?
Absolutely.
Should she be
Everybody
videoing?
should be documenting.
Should she be writing it down? Like, what would be, if you had the perfect case in front of you, you were like, this is foolproof, what would that look like?
Well, everybody should be documenting everything. And we have this incredible tool, right? Mine's sitting right over there. Yours is over there. Like, it's like these iPhones or whatever you have, Androids. They're all they've got everything on them to document, right?
Yeah.
And you can record to protect yourself in this state. You can't do that in every state, but in Missouri you can.
Right.
In Kansas you can. If you cross the bridge over to Illinois, don't do it. But
isn't that interesting? That's so weird.
yeah,
to me,
I know. There's weird rules, but like so important. There's exceptions too there even. So it's just having this tool to protect yourself at all times is very empowering.
Yeah.
And I think that you want to just in even a domestic violence situation, right? You want to be documenting everything you possibly can.
Okay.
So important.
I know it's so sad, but it's like you have to figure out, like, if you can't leave right now, at least figure out a way that you can protect yourself later,
Yeah. And consent is a moving target. I say that a lot too, right? Because people think, well, if I gave consent before and now I'm no longer into it, they're going to blame me for this because, right? Like I gave it at one time, but it really, you can revoke consent at any time.
Oof.
And I see that a lot with clients too, where they think like, well, I agreed to participate in whatever sexual activity with my boss for a month, let's say. And then I just was too much for me and I got sick of it. So I said, we're done. And guess what happens? Like the boss is mad because he's not getting this anymore. So he makes work a living hell for my client up to the point that maybe they terminate them. And that revocation, that retaliation is really like the nexus of I think a case. Like it's important. I see a lot of people who think, again, because they started it, that they have to finish it, and you don't. Like, you can be the victim of assault, like if you meet a stranger and they assault you, or you can be the victim of assault if it's your very best friend and you've been dating them, you've been married to them, and then all of a sudden you say no and they don't listen. It's important.
That's so true. I'm so glad you said that. That's a tough one.
Tough one.
That is a tough one, especially like when it comes to like marital situations, right? Like, and that's a whole other rabbit hole that we probably won't go down today, but like consent is always necessary, you know, like anyone who is taking advantage of you, regardless, whether it's like you said, a boyfriend, a husband, anyone that is taking advantage of you and that's still wrong. It's still wrong.
Absolutely.
Right. And I don't know that you're necessarily going to go to an attorney, but it's still wrong. It's still a betrayal and it's crossing a line for sure. Which I think is important for married women to understand too. But again, we'll talk about that another day. So what would be your advice to any woman, like just going into a new workplace, and we'll say it's corporate, we'll say it's, it's a place where a lot of men are working. What are the best steps to protect yourself from ending up in that situation? And then when you start to sense that maybe you could.
So I think some people get the sense right from the bat, right? Because a lot of times, unfortunately, like when they're getting hired, they feel like, oh, okay, my red flags are up, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just imagining and it won't get worse, and maybe it won't, but often it does. Or I see it manifest itself where like people are working and the job is great for 6 months and they love it so much, and then this manager gets hired in, right, and ruins everything because he's just horrible. And that's the hardest, I think, for a lot of people, because they've fallen in love with their job and gotten comfortable, and now there's this new thing that makes it unbearable. I know. Remind me what your question is. I keep thinking
what is like the best way for someone to protect themselves, like in a work environment, before it even comes to that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, while you're employed and you got to be brave about it, I think reporting is so important.
Yeah.
It is, because here's the thing. If you report it, exactly what happened, and you want to use specifics, and the retaliation, which I talked about before, happens, you have some proof like, hey, I've got a track record. I warned you guys about this. You knew it was going to happen. If you don't report it and then the retaliation happens, it's hard to pin it back. It's hard to say, yeah, that's what was leading up to it.
So let's say I'm coming out of this has happened to me at work. Police department should be the first thing I do. Filing the report should be the first thing I do.
Yes.
And then calling an attorney.
I would say that's the correct order.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, but people do it the other way. I mean, some people are telling me all the time, oh, it's too late to file a police report because I didn't do it that day. And that's not true. Like, there's so many reasons why you don't immediately leave work and go file a police report. We have families, right?
Yeah.
We have stresses. Sometimes it takes a while, and that's absolutely fine. I do think that you want to try to contact an attorney as soon as possible because of that short statute of limitations. Again, it's like 6 months and it can be tricky, but I really enjoy what I do. This has been unbelievably satisfying for me. And just kind of going back to, I became a lawyer because I was trying to impress a guy.
And now look at you.
But I something I didn't think I would even do this field of practice. I originally thought I would go into something like criminal defense or maybe personal injury. This has been unbelievably rewarding. It's cathartic for yourself because you're kind of, I say this all the time, like, I didn't have the resources. My case didn't work out great, but I see other people's where it's working and it feels like it's working for me because that's the empathy thing. And that's amazing.
I love that so much because a lot of people get really discouraged when they see cases, especially like national, like big cases, like the one with, what was his name? Not Harvey Weinstein. It was the other guy, Jeffrey.
He's fun too. Yeah. And I joke around a lot about this stuff because it's a way I think of like coping with it. But the fact is, like, Jeff Epstein and Harvey Weinstein are monsters, right?
Yeah, they are, right?
That's who
and
we see.
When you see like people like losing cases or in court with those situations for years and like it just you feel so bad for them, right?
Horrible.
And it makes you think, would I really want to do that? Like, could I mentally and emotionally handle that, you know, after, but of course not every situation is televised. It's not, always like that.
No. And do you feel that way too? I bet you do. Like, you help a lot of people and you talk to so many people. I bet like for your own situation, it almost makes you feel like some healing of your own when you see
literally healing
other
me.
people.
Yeah, it is healing me. I think that's the whole purpose, right? Is that you take the things that happen to you and you do your best to help other people so that they don't have to go through that, or that if they do, you actually know because you've been there. You know what to do. You know how to guide them. You know how to, encourage them and keep them going and give them that support that maybe they wouldn't get other places,
Yeah.
If there was one thing that you could tell your younger self when you went through what you went through, what would it be?
I know that question comes up a lot on social media.
Yeah.
It's, there's so many things that and I'm sure I'm still learning even to this day. In 10 years from now, I'm going to probably look at myself now and say, what were you thinking? I maybe when I'm 90, I'll do it to the 60-year-old me. It's part of life, right? Yeah. I think I was felt really hopeless in a lot of ways when I was younger, and didn't feel like I was worthy. I bet you can relate to that. I'm
100%.
sure. Yeah. And that insecurity goes away just with age, I think, and experience. And I remember a lot of people, oh my gosh, this one is going to hit hard. A lot of people would tell me that, just wait, he's coming for you, right? The guy that is healthy and awesome. And I was like, you are so wrong. I know what I need. The person that I'm going after who's abusive, he'll learn to love me back and not be abusive, right?
Yeah,
a lot of us feel that way. And you do snap out of it. And
you sure do.
So many people were telling me that you're going to snap out of it. And I was like, you're so wrong. And it's kind of nice to look back and when I see people going through that, be like, I know what you're feeling because I was in that, but it really, really does work. You do get past it.
You sure do. Yeah, no, I can honestly say that eventually you look at your life and you realize, you know what? I'm worth more than this. I deserve more than this. And I have to change the parts of me that keep accepting it. Right?
Yeah.
I was just saying that on my last episode that one of the greatest moments of my life was one of the worst heartbreaks of my life because it made me go, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to keep tolerating abusive behavior, toxic behavior from people. I don't deserve that. and having to sit with that and go, okay, what parts of me don't feel worthy of more? That really woke me up, and it made me really look at myself and heal those parts of me. And now you couldn't pay me. There is no dollar amount that you could pay me. It could be $1 billion. I would never let someone that was abusive in my life again. Like, I just wouldn't, and I do think age and experience is a huge part of that, but it's just like healing that part of you that questions whether you deserve better. Have there been any cases that you did that like just blew your mind? Like anything that was like, unlike any of the other cases that you had?
Yes, I feel like it happens all the time. And I have to be careful about confidentiality breaching and that sort of thing. But like each time a bar is set, I think, for just how badly somebody can behave. And I'm like, oh, this is the worst case I've ever seen. Somehow it's like the records on the Olympics. They just keep getting broken. Like the records. I know I'm joking about it, but it's true. Like,
it's not funny, but it's like
the jokings of abuse just, it gets worse and worse. And one of the things that we see a lot, this is pretty juicy content, but because of this wonderful device like the cell phone, people are really free with just like sending pictures of their and we see a lot of that. That is a big no-no, obviously. Like if your boss is sending you pictures or asking for pictures and saying, I'll cash app you or I'll give you a raise, any of that stuff. Yeah. I see that. You should be calling me because it is a form of abuse. And
yeah, it is.
It's psychologically horrible.
Yeah, that's very Harvey Weinstein-ish for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think definitely knowing the signs is really important. Like knowing what the signs of abuse of power look like, right? I think that's extraordinarily important for every woman to know getting into the work field, and not being afraid to tell the truth, not being afraid to tell someone what's happening, And I mean, for me, that would have changed so many things. Like if I had just had the courage to speak up about the things that happened to me versus keeping them to myself out of fear of what other people would say, or would they think it was my fault? Would they think that I did this to myself? And that has happened before, in telling my story, where people were like, well, what did you wear? And well, did they think that you liked them? And it's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like no still means no at the end of the day.
And I use this analogy a lot too, because I think it's important. Like, I mean, our firm is called Jungle Law, obviously. But I think that abusers are like predators.
Yeah, they absolutely are.
It is not random. They prepare. In the case of employment, like when a supervisor assaults you or is engaging in a relationship with you, that's a power struggle. They are planning this. They're thinking about it. And to me, that is unbelievable manipulation, right? But it's something that you have to recognize that you've been groomed. Yeah. And we see a lot of that.
Ugh, that makes me so sad.
Yeah.
And honestly, grooming is so like malicious. Like if you don't know what it looks like, you don't know that it's happening to you, Yeah, it's easier to say in retrospect once it's happened. But I think people have good instincts too, right? Because if you feel like, am I being like sexually harassed? You probably are. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of people think, well, maybe it's like not so bad. I'm not sure. Or I asked for it in some way. Like anytime you're having that reaction, I think you need to explore a little bit further about what's going on.
I agree. Is there anything that you would have done differently in your own case?
Oh God, yeah, of course. I was really young and I was in LA, and my goal was to get as far as I possibly could.
Yeah.
If I could go back to the one where I did take at least some steps towards it, I would have hired an attorney, 100%, if I had known that. I don't think there was as much recourse back then as there is now. But I think an attorney would have told me, oh my goodness, like this is horrible, and here are the steps that we can take. I think some people tried to talk me out of it.
Yeah.
Because it's just easier to make it go away. And I bought into that. I wish I hadn't.
Yeah.
Those are the tough things.
That is tough.
But I think it happens to a lot of people, and it's from a work perspective, at least. Like, again, people are really afraid to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
They're petrified, and I want people to feel comfortable. And this goes for men too. Like, I know that most of my clients and victims are women.
Right.
I represent men too, because believe it or not, there are women out there who do this to men, unbelievably manipulative. And of course, like, you know, it's not just for heterosexual people. Like I see it across the board. We have men who do this to men, women who do this to women.
Oh.
It's not a gender thing. It's not a sexuality thing. I think it's a position of power thing.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And it goes beyond the workplace too, really. You know, in domestic violence situations, it's the exact same thing. What about a woman? Like, what if, or woman or man, somebody that's like, okay, this happened. I want to file and I want to get an attorney, but I don't have the money for that.
Good question. Yeah. So I take these cases, I say on contingency, which means nobody pays me upfront at all.
Wow.
Yeah. I know some people have a different model, but my feeling is like, if you've got a case that I think we can win, like we can take the risk to take it. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't get any money, and I'm out money, but like I have a pretty good sense doing this now for some years, concentrating on it completely, like what I think is going to prevail. And a lot of these things resolve early. That's what's nice. People think I'm going to be in court for years. This is going to take up a lot of my life. Potentially that could happen. But a lot of companies, they're like, we don't want to deal with the hassle. Like we want to resolve it too. And here's the thing, I say it's the pay it forward philosophy. Yeah. Like if you stand up and maybe you don't win your case, maybe you don't get any money, or maybe you only get a small amount of money, less than you wanted, right? Yeah. But you know what you're going to do is very quietly, this company is going to look into themselves and say, we had something bad happen, and maybe it's because we didn't have the protocols in place, or maybe we screwed up here. They'll never admit it to you, but they're going to make those changes quietly. Yeah. And those quiet changes, like, oh my God, like you standing up, going to the police, calling me, whatever, like you doing this, it just fixed the lives of countless people you don't know about.
That's so true. What a good way to look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what it is? It's bigger than you. Like when things like this happen, it's even bigger than you. Like, and every little thing you do really does. It can and help just about everybody afterwards. So I love that. Thank you for saying that.
I was watching one of your Instagram videos when you're in the car, and like you have such a like relaxed, natural way of talking. And I was thinking about that with you too. I was like, you know, a lot of people are probably just sitting at home and don't want anyone to know about anything, but just the comfort of being able to watch you in your car, like it's very nice to have
thank
that.
You.
Yeah.
Was it the one where I said you have to take a stand for yourself? Because I learned that the hard way.
No, but I think but I think just like your tone is really just very friendly and encouraging to people. Like, I know, I hope you see this as a compliment. It almost feels like you're a mom or a big sister. Aww. It's so nice.
Well, like, I am both, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, you're a good mom and you're a good big sister. Because I think the other thing is a lot of people, like the way that this is presented to you, especially through like detectives, I'm sure you can relate to this. It's like very clerical and legal, a lot of legalese. If you can have that sort of real chat with humans, like just friends and family, that makes such a huge difference.
It does. And, you know, I think a part of that too is that I didn't have that support system in place for myself. And so it's like my heart is just, I feel so deeply for people in these situations because I wish so badly I'd had that, you know?
Yeah.
And it does. It definitely, you grow up. It definitely pushes you way ahead in your life, you know, mentally, because you have no choice but to like, you know, work through it and heal, you know. But thank you so much for coming today. Like I'm so grateful to you. And I know this episode, I have a feeling is going to help so many people, many people. Like, because I mean, these are things I didn't even know, right? Because I never took any actions against my perpetrators. So it's just encouraging, one, to know your story, to know that you've been through it, that you've experienced it yourself, but that you took what you experienced and you're like, okay, now I'm going to help other people fight for what I didn't get to fight for completely, you know? And I think that speaks volumes about who you are as a person, but also about your company and what you guys stand for. And it gives hope to anyone out there that's like, I don't have the strength to do this. I don't have the money to do this. I don't know if I have the courage to like step out and speak, but because this made it, you simplified it in such a way, right? That it's like, oh, you know what? This is doable. Like I should speak up. I should get a lawyer. I can do it. I can figure it out. And it will make a difference, not just for me, but for other people. And I think that's really important. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah. I think it's a value add to society. No matter what the outcome, I think speaking up about it there's many good things that come out of it, but you're at least going to check a couple of boxes there. And that's what's nice.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you so much. And is there a way that people can contact you? Like, what is the website? Like, where can people find you if they have questions or
Thanks.
want to proceed with their own, case?
So our website is junglelaw.com, and you probably see a lot of our crazy commercials. My now husband, law partner, has long blonde hair and looks like Tarzan. He's riding animals. So people remember that. And then I'm on pink billboards that say harassed at work, #MeToo.
Yeah.
But you can go to our website. You can call us 1-833 for Jungle.
Okay.
And there's emails and chats and all that stuff. I talk to every client personally that I represent a lot, because I just think it's important to do that, and just know that there's people out there who want to help you for sure. Like just for this perspective, and don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy. You're not alone. You are literally not alone. And like there's so many resources that people can go to now that weren't available even probably when we were, in our situations back then. So anyway, well, that's it for today. Again, thank you to our guest today who provided so much knowledge. I hope this inspires you guys and remind you to use your voice, that your voice matters, that your experience matters, your story matters, and what happens to you matters, and that you don't have to keep it to yourself and suffer alone. Have a great week.